Alrighty, Cherry. So fun to see you from like one time zone away in different
Aw,
countries.
it's so good to see you too, Art.
Thanks. It's been a while. We were in Bali together, like, was it a year
A
ago? A year
year
ago when I was running deeper
ago.
conversations? It was
Mhm.
about a year ago that I left Bali. I can't remember if you left before me or after.
I left right before you, yeah. And I thought I was gonna see everyone again because I thought I'd be back, and here we
You haven't
are.
gone back?
I haven't gone back.
No, that's right. Oh, what a shame. Do you think about going back?
I do, yeah, I think about it all the time. It's honestly the place I would love to be living, but it's just, very far away time zone-wise and locationally, and it's a hard place to,
Mm.
commute between California and Bali.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough commute. A little bit better
Mhm.
than I'm from the East Coast, and my gosh, it's like
Mhm.
35 hours to get to Bali each time. It's a really intense slog.
I think
And I'm
Bali is the farthest place actually from Florida.
That's about right. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, we were talking about having a little bit of recap of our Bali time.
Mhm.
And what was the journey for you? How did you end up there? What brought you to Bali, and what did you discover that had you staying for a while?
Yeah, so I had always really felt a resonance with Bali. I think part of it is just that my mom really liked it, and she would always talked about when she had been there when she was younger. And, it's a completely different Bali than the Bali that was when she went, I'm sure. But I had wanted to try out being a nomad. And so I sold all my belongings, sold my car, left some stuff in my friend's place in Los Angeles in her garage, and set out to go and be a little digital nomad and live my best life. And I feel like I wasn't as much of a nomad as much as I just went and lived in Bali because that's primarily
True.
where I was. But I didn't want to leave, and I think about how sad I am that I left all the time. Honestly, like I think Bali really
Mm,
felt like home, even though it is not home at all. But the people there really make it special.
mhm,
What about you?
yeah.
What brought you to Bali, and what kept you there, kept you coming back?
Well, it was a little bit different for me because I set out in 2019. I set out in 2019 on my like big digital nomad trip, but I also like had no money and an English teaching job, and I was just like, I'm just gonna kind of figure
Mhm,
it out um, as I go, and if I like really run out of money, then I'll just get like some kind of travel teaching job in Latin America. That's what I thought I was gonna do. I met this travel blogger who I followed for a long time. He was one of the inspirations for me to that I could get out, leave Florida, go explore the world and teach English. And so I met him in Medellin, and pretty quickly he started talking to me about a job, and not a remote job, but I would have to go to this place called Bali. And I basically agreed to do that and then went home and Googled where is Bali because it wasn't on my radar at all. I didn't have any idea what this place was. I was sure it was in India because Bollywood, right?
Whoa.
That's the same thing, I'm sure.
Right, Bollywood,
Uh,
yeah.
Bollywood.
Checks
Yeah,
out,
it's not.
totally.
It's not as I found out. And then yeah, ended up a few months later, like on a flight to Bali, and then stayed there more or less for 4 years. And so
Mhm,
I kind of had an interesting relationship with Bali because I felt like I didn't come to that choice to go there myself. I made the choice multiple times to stay, and that was because I was already developing community. I Bali checks so many boxes on paper, and you can really build a beautiful
mhm,
lifestyle there. And that's what I'm impressed about with Bali. There's a light and shadow to this, right? The shadow,
mhm,
just to address that and get that out of the way, that I notice is that we have all of us foreigners, digital nomads, tourists, bule, who are kind of like this foam floating on the surface of Bali. Bali has this deep, 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 rich culture, and as foreigners, we don't really integrate with it. We don't really get in touch with it. We enjoy the fact that um,
mhm.
things are relatively cheap. We enjoy the fact that they have such great hospitality, and honestly a very servile nature.
Mhm.
Balinese people are really, really beautiful, and I've known many beautiful Balinese people, and I consider them some really rich connections personally. But I also didn't integrate into Balinese culture. That being said,
Right.
the fun part is that people go to Bali and they create their designer lives.
Mhm.
The beautiful gyms, the ice baths, the perfect nutrition, the crazy spiritual practices and cleanses, and the digital nomad setups and villas, all of that. People do it different ways, but it's a great place for people to establish their designer life and live the kinds of ways that you hear people talk
Mhm.
about living, live the kind of ways that you see people talking about living on Instagram. Um, say, yeah. That was interesting. That kept me there. Also, I made it took me a while before I found my friends there. It took me a while, and it had to do with
Okay.
the philosophy club and deeper conversations and stuff. That
Mhm.
led me to finding my community. But, yeah, there there are some good people around, but you have to kinda find them in the mix as you're also finding out who you are in this new place because it's a place of transformation, which is fun. Let's see, did you find your community pretty easily? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I felt like I got super lucky, honestly. I knew that community was incredibly important to me. And
Mhm.
I actually had a boyfriend in Bali, and I was not really as interested in like just hanging out with them and their friends. I wanted to have my own friends and my own life and my own community. And so he really encouraged me to, like, go to meetups and go to community things and that, like, since
Mhm.
I was new to being a nomad and he had been a nomad for several years, he was like, "You really need to, like, figure out your tribe or, like, what type of people you like to be around." And I already knew that, but it was nice to know that, like, if I wanted to have a social life, I had a partner and I had those friends there, but also, like, I was very much up to my own free will to go and make my own community, and so I was really active about going on I found Nomeo pretty quickly. I think someone told me
Shout
about
out
it.
to Nomeo.
Nomeo, which is an online platform, like a meetup event where it's for nomads in Southeast Asia primarily to connect with each other, and I went to one of the Deeper Conversations events. It felt like it would be right up my alley and something that I would be really excited about going to and like having those, like breaking past the surface level with people. And then when I was there, I was told about Philosophy Club. I got invited to that. And I know that's like a little bit more curated, the people who go to it, and as soon as I found Philosophy Club, I felt like, "Oh, I found my people, like, these are the types of people who talk about the things that I wanna talk about," and I love that it was, like, a smaller group discussion style as well, rather than like a large table of people trying to discuss one topic. Because personally, I'm an introvert, and I know if I'm in a group of more than 5 people, I'm probably not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna sit there and listen to people. And so I think the facilitation of smaller groups and then people would switch the groups that they were in, that was really important to actually feel like, oh, I get to know these people on a deeper level and actually have a lot of interesting dialogue from people from all over the country or all over the world, different countries, different cultures, and hear everyone who had such different backgrounds. And that's really something that I would love to recultivate in whatever city I settle down in long term. But I
Mhm.
do think that it's gonna be very different because in Bali, it attracts this very unique, nuanced human who has, uprooted their life from wherever they live, moved away from their friends and their family and everything of their
Mhm.
normalcy, and has decided that they're gonna go live in Bali, which is so far away from most places, and it really attracts a very unique individual who is independent and free thinking and more of someone who probably is a life designer, someone who cares about having a life that is particular to them and their wants and their desires,
Mm,
rather than just sticking to the status quo and the normalcy of, having a 9 to 5 job and living in the same city for your whole life. And so it really attracts these people that like have an interesting worldview, have a lot of thoughts about the way that they live their life and the way that their background has shaped them. And typically, I feel like a lot of the people I met in Bali were very introspective and intuitive. And I happen to love people who are like that, who are like, really thinking deeper about what do they want for their lives and what do they want for themselves and what is really important. And so I felt like the majority of the people who I met in Bali, I clicked with fairly quickly. And also, like, I'm super into wellness and I would go to the gym and you could just like make all your friends at the gym in Bali. It's like you could just go to the gym all day long and stay there. And it seems so weird to try to explain that to my friends back
yeah.
in the States that like the primary thing I would do in Bali is go to the gym and I'd like work there and I'd do dance classes and I would do gym things and just hang out with people and read by the pool and that could be your entire life. And I totally resonate with what you're saying about how in Bali there's this sense of like not really integrating with the Balinese culture. And of course, like I don't feel like I integrated with the Balinese culture, as you're saying, like typical Bali digital nomads. But, I will say that, like, I didn't really go to Bali necessarily to have, like, a Balinese cultural experience. I did enjoy learning more about Hinduism, and I made little prayer baskets, and I did get
Uh-huh.
to talk some with some Balinese families to get a greater sense of what their life is like. But I really went to Bali actually to meet nomads. Like, I wanted to go and meet these other people who had decided that they wanted a different path for their lives and came from different countries, and to have that rich mix and blend of com different cultures and people from all over. And while it is mostly, like, Australians and Europeans and then a dabble of Americans, I did feel like I got to meet a much wider cultural buffet of humans and with very unique flares, than I had when I, like, studied abroad in Europe, for example.
Do you remember the first deeper conversations or philosophy club that you went to? Which topic?
I don't remember the first deeper conversations or philosophy club that I went to, but I think the first philosophy club topic was one that I wasn't really interested in, and then I was pleasantly surprised because I liked just hearing everyone's takes on the topic, and I was in no position to turn down friends as I really didn't have any friends or anything, but it was a good, actually, part of why I wanted to go be a nomad and live abroad was because I wanted to put myself into uncomfortable situations and to get out of my shell more. Because I can present very extroverted, but I am actually definitely an introvert, and I
Mhm.
think that being a nomad and, like, living in another country and having to make all your own friends from scratch definitely forced me to get out of my shell and to make those connections quicker and to really make sure that I was finding my people and having that sense of community. Because I knew that if I didn't have community and didn't have friends, then I wouldn't be very happy living in another country.
True. That's good
Mhm.
awareness. I didn't know that when I first went to Bali. I actually had to build that awareness over time. And
Mhm.
the philosophy club and deeper conversations were born out of that, which is great. So that we can all share that together.
How did you start philosophy club?
So philosophy club actually started in Bulgaria with me and
Mhm,
Tim. So
mhm,
Tim and I and Martin were there, but it was Tim and me kind of like spinning it up.
mhm.
Um, Tim and I had met in Bali, but then we actually became friends in Bansko, Bulgaria, which is a lovely.
Right.
Do you know it? This like ski
It's
town.
where I heard it's where Nomad Fest is.
It's where Nomad Fest is. Yeah. So I
Right.
went for Nomad Fest, and Tim wasn't there, but it was after a little while he came. Turns out I kind of went there because he went there, because he recommended a friend, Elena, to go, and then Elena recommended me to go. and I didn't really know Tim, but then we became friends and, started right away having these, like, in-depth intellectual chats that I didn't know I could have with anyone except for, like, dead authors by reading their books. I didn't know that there were any living people with which you could, like, share such intense niche things, and, he was really good for a chat. And Bansko, like Bali, has all of these types that you're talking about, but maybe even a
Okay.
little it's even more transient, it's harder to get to. People don't establish themselves in Bansko so much, but you get a lot of kinda startup digital nomad types. Interesting people, good for chats, and we were there for, like, another month and hosted some conversations. And then, yes, my journey continued to Estonia, and I started one there. Totally different experience.
Mhm.
A lot of expats and some Estonians, but not so much digital nom blah, digital nomads. Um, and then in Bali, when I got back there, I got there before Tim, so I started it up, and yeah, it's been running for, like, 3 years now. I think the concept now is different.
Right.
After we left this time, they're trialing doing something more like a deeper conversations format because, like,
Slash
not
philosophy
everybody's
club.
into philosophy. Yeah, and,
Right.
like, well, that's kind of the point. I want the
Kind of the
people who are
point,
into
exactly.
philosophy to be in the philosophy club, and the deeper conversations thing is, like, a beautiful space for us to share, things that aren't so
Mhm.
philosophically oriented, but are
Right.
fascinating to get into. Mm. I remember, just being really aware of your presence for the first time. Because in these events, like, we would have been in the same events, like, a few times,
Mhm.
and you stand out because of your red hair, but I don't know if we were in a group together until the, um, m the personality types, deeper
Right.
conversations, and I could tell, like, what you were so keen. You knew so much about the Myers-Briggs, but it seemed, like, very lived, like, you see it in your friends, you see it in people, and it wasn't so much of this, like, um whenever I talk to Martin and Tim about it, it's this very theoretical thing, which then you can just, like, kind of find examples of. But for in that moment, it seemed that you, like, lived and loved and joked in the Myers-Briggs framework.
This is so true. I'm obsessed with Myers-Briggs types. Just personality traits in general, I find really fascinating. But specifically, I'm really into Myers-Briggs types over Enneagram, or even like a lot of people compare it to zodiac signs. But I just find that the way that Myers-Briggs is broken out to be such a cool framework, even if it's not considered scientifically accurate or it's pseudoscience or whatever people want to say about it.
Great pseudoscience.
It's a great pseudoscience. And really, what I enjoy about it so much is being able to notice these similarities and patterns between people that I meet and how they fit into the framework. And if they remind me of someone else who I know that's also that type. And of course, no one fits perfectly into whatever their framework is. It's like no one's perfectly an introvert or complete extrovert. Everyone has nuance to them, and it's really
Mhm.
on a sliding scale of where someone fits onto these markers. But it's something where it really helped me as a nomad just to better classify people quickly, to figure out like what they maybe like to talk about or what they might be interested in so that I could have these better, deeper conversations and build rapport quicker with people who you just meet and suddenly, you both live in this different country with each other and you just have to like figure out really quickly, do I want to be friends with this person? Are we just acquaintances? Should we just be like gym friends? And I think that with Myers-Briggs types, it can help you to just build that rapport with people much quicker, where you can find out, how does this person similar to the other people that I know that are like that type, or how are they dissimilar for that?
Mhm.
And it's just something where I like play a game in my head when I meet someone. I try to guess how quickly I can figure out what their Myers-Briggs type is. And a lot of times I will ask people what theirs is if they know it or not. Or I'll have them like ask ChatGPT although ChatGPT
Yeah,
is not
same.
super accurate about it, but it is something where I think especially that deeper conversations event where everyone was talking about their Myers-Briggs types, we had certain people go to tables where you were with people who were similar to you, and then tables where everyone was dissimilar to your type, and just noticing how similar a lot of the interests and the shared conversation topics and the things that we liked to discuss were when I was at the table with the other intuitive feeler types was so different than when I was at the table with the intuitive thinker types. And I really like both of these types of people. But it's like I like them for different reasons. And so it was very validating to be at tables with different types and to think,
Uh-huh.
oh, yep, this totally checks out. Like I don't know this person that well, but they do fit into that box in my head of the other people I know that are that type.
Mm. When I designed that conversation, I designed it with the idea in mind of bringing awareness to people's own types if they weren't so
Yeah.
familiar with the system before. So there were some questions to like for people to help explain, yeah, their preferences and what kind of information they tune into and find relevant and interesting. And the other idea was to get people of different types together to try to see their perspectives, to try to see their
Mhm.
perspectives through the conversation. So as much as possible, I think the guidance I gave at the beginning was look at your two letters, the two middle ones, so NF for both of us, and try to find people with different
Mhm.
ones of those, as much as possible, or something like that. The main feedback I got from that deeper conversations event was that it was quite frustrating being around a table with people of totally different personality types. And I vividly remember Tim especially telling me, you know, what would be so cool as a concept is to have all of the ENTPs together at a table so that they could just like complain about the other types.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the next one we would run. In fact, if I'd stayed in Bali a while longer, I would have run that concept as well and see what happens. Not necessarily the
Meet up
complaining,
group.
but yeah, see what it's like to be around your type.
Well, I
Mm,
was really looking for a table full of INTPs because I really like
yeah.
INTPs, but I don't meet very many of them, and there were none there, probably because INTPs don't get out much. So they're all at home.
Extroverted feeling is their shadow function. That is like the last well, they would be interested in the concept, but they would just much
Mhm.
rather just study it on their own rather than to be
At
face to face
home.
with people and in real time having
Right.
to like formulate thoughts and
Mhm.
use feelings. That's, you know,
I really like how when I'll ask people what their type is, I can sometimes already figure out what type they are based on their response. Because some types have never heard of it and they don't really care. Some types are really fascinated by it and they really care, or they want to know more, or they already know just as much about it as I do.
mhm. Or tell me about
Those are typically,
myself. Yeah.
or tell me about myself. Those are typically types that are more similar to me. And then some
The
types
best types,
want
right?
to I mean, we're great, yeah. I like having variety. And then some types, they wanna argue with it. The NT types wanna say it's pseudoscience and that they don't see why they should take it, or they know what theirs is, but they have some belief that ocean or the Big Five is just way better.
Oh, the big 5 thing. Oh my
Big
gosh.
Five is way more scientifically validated, so why aren't you more into that?
Yeah, I've
It's
got
a
good
common
responses to that.
response. It's a common
So
response.
wait, tell me, so kind of based off of that, what are the main misunderstandings you get from people who aren't yet sold on the Myers-Briggs idea? Like when you first propose it to them, I get this like big 5 response. We're like, oh,
Mhm.
but have you heard of the big 5? Or do you know your zodiac sign? Um,
Right.
are there any standard responses that you feel like you get a lot?
Yeah, definitely the I don't know why I would care about this compared to Ocean, the Big Five, like, I'll turn you on to this other more scientifically validated, personality typology test, which, I've heard of because I'm obsessed with this. But my
Oh.
um, retort to that is really that the reason why MBTI is so much more popular in a pop culture sense than Ocean or Enneagram is really because of the way that it is framed as 16 types. It's more marketable, it's more palatable, it's much easier to say, I'm the advocate or I am the architect than it is to say I am 32% introvert and 58%
Mhm.
conscientiousness and I have this degree of openness. It's just something that you can't really put into a schematic framework.
Mm.
And obviously, people's other responses, well, I don't want to be put in a box. I'm so multifaceted. I'm so diverse. You can't just put me into one of 16
Mhm.
categories. That doesn't make any sense. And of course, yeah, you can't put people into one of 16 categories. Everyone is so nuanced and different. But really, personality is a temperamental spectrum where you have people on this scale, a sliding scale from how introverted or extroverted they are, how intuitive or sensing they are, how much they are someone who makes decisions by their logic, thinkers, or more of their emotional or their um inner
Mhm.
intuition, intuitive state, more like feelers. So of course, if someone's like right in the middle of two types, then they're going to be classified as one or the other. And that is something that is not my favorite part about Myers-Briggs, but it's just something to be aware of that it's like, oh, like, you can have a spectrum, of course, where maybe you are very much an INFJ, but because you are a bit in between of being judging and perceiving, or a bit of an ambivert and in the middle of introverted and extroverted, you probably have a lot of tendencies of an ENFP as well. And so, everything is nuanced, but this like framework of having 16 types just makes it a much easier way to try to explain it to someone or to get a better understanding. And then knowing from there that it's not just about like fitting into a box, it's really about the way that your cognitive functions work and the way that you make decisions and present in the world based on this framework that was ultimately really created based on Carl Jung's work.
Mm.
So it has a lot of backing to it, but it's just the way that it is able to be more palatable and more easily digestible is part of what I enjoy about it. Because, you can never meet someone and then try to figure out like their percentageness that they are open or the percentageness that they are conscientious. And so it's just like a helpful way to try to get a better understanding of how someone's cognitive functions might work and how that might show up as well in their personality traits and the way that they show up in the world.
Mhm. Yeah. I wanna bring to light, like, a slight difference of how I would word, one of these things, and it's about the Myers-Briggs, explaining how somebody shows up in the
Mhm.
world. I think that is kind of like a knock-on effect of the Myers-Briggs, but that is more the Big 5 territory. Big 5 territory is saying that, like, okay, you're gonna behave in certain ways. You are gonna be
Mhm.
open to experience or you're not. You're going
Right.
to, do this conscientious thing or you're not. You're gonna be agreeable and say yes or you're not. And then the Myers-Briggs and the cognitive functions, they don't tell you exactly how you're gonna behave, but they're gonna tell you the mental processes that are
Right.
aligning, like, how you're taking in data, and then whatever pathways eventually lead to your decision, which could look similar for different types. The decisions could ultimately be similar, but the ways that you get there, these internal processes will be different. And that's what the Myers-Briggs and cognitive functions try to get at. Um, of course, there are big correlations between the
Mhm.
cognitive function stack that you're using and then how you behave, which is why this is what I've heard. I've heard that the 16 personalities website, the one, the
Yes.
main easy test that you can read, the main resource
Yeah,
that you send somebody to, like, "Hey, here's your type.
it's very
Read it. Tell me if
simple,
you
it's
think this is you."
not that in depth, but yeah, it's the
Yeah.
good entry level to MBTI.
So, what I've heard, this is the hot goss, is that it's a big 5 test, which is why you
Oh.
get 5 qualities.
Oh, because it
ENFP,
also gives
T,
the A or the T, right.
and they've just mapped it on to Myers-Briggs.
That's fascinating.
What?
That's some hot
What?
tea. I didn't know that.
I know, right? Yeah, go into the at some point, like, I went into the,
Mhm.
so Martin told me this, and then I went into the site to try to, like, get that information for myself, and it did, like, indicate that this isn't, I don't know, they're not working with the cognitive functions. which I
Mm,
believe is the proper way to work with
right,
Myers-Briggs and is to work with the
right.
cognitive functions. They were working with these 5
Mhm,
distinct qualities of extroversion, introversion, and intuition. You know the ones,
mhm.
which isn't yeah, which isn't right.
That is the other main thing that people complain to me about Myers-Briggs is that, "Oh, I took the test and I got ENFP, and then, oh, I took it again and I got ENTJ, so this is invalid because of I'm getting a multitude of different answers."
Mhm.
And that's another point that is totally accurate, and I'm actually anti-personality tests. That's my stance on it, is that these tests are not really testing for what's accurate in a way. Like, for example, some of the questions I believe are, do you enjoy going to parties? Do you have a lot of friends? Do
Yeah.
you enjoy large gatherings? That's not really testing for introversion or extroversion. You can be popular and have lots of friends and love musical gatherings and love being around people, but maybe at the end of the day, you get really socially drained while you're there and you have to go curl up in the bathtub with a book after because you need to recharge your social battery by yourself. And so that is one of the problems with personality tests in general is that you are self-selecting for what you think that you would be like and, people are gonna be different in different instances, of course, but really, like, to get the most accurate answer of a personality test is actually just to understand the different facets of the cognitive functions or to actually understand the different traits within it because, a lot of people know if they're an introvert or an extrovert. And plenty of people know if they are a planner or someone who's more
Uh-huh.
spontaneous, but that is also, a nuance, like, not everyone knows, of course, it depends on how introspective you are, I suppose.
And so those are, like, generally the 2 kinda questions I use to start introducing the concepts to somebody. Like, "Hey, these are some of the kind of personality axes that we're talking about. These are some ways you could see it
Right.
show up in your life." But I don't know about you, but 9 times out of 10, I ask somebody, "Do you identify as an introvert or an extrovert?" And there's, like, a 2 to 5-second pause, and then they say, "Well, I'm both."
It depends.
Almost
Yeah,
every time. I've
yeah, true.
started to rephrase as identifying that we all have introverted and extroverted qualities.
Mhm.
Do you feel that you're more prominently introverted or extroverted?
It's a good way to put it too, because most people will say, "I'm an introverted extrovert," or "I'm an extroverted introvert." It's saying that they're
Yeah,
both.
and they're
Yeah, it's
not
so
wrong.
true.
That's
Right,
how it works. That's
right, yeah, you're
entirely
both.
how it works, but it's not different for you than from everybody else,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah,
it's bringing it back to it's a spectrum, right? It's somewhere on a sliding scale. No one is 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. It's like everyone has a different variance to it.
yeah,
And what I find really fascinating is that, like, in different environments, you can actually show up as a different version of
mhm,
yourself or a different way of being in terms of like how it affects your social battery or your introversion or extroversion.
mm. It's funny that, so in the original book, Psychological Types, where Jung lays out the cognitive functions. First off, side note, I really like that title,
Mhm.
Psychological Types, rather than personality types, because I
Right.
feel attached to my personality. It's not one of 16. I'm a very individual, unique human being. There's only one of
Of
my
course.
personality,
We're all so
but
different and so unique snowflakes.
so I'm such a snowflake.
Such a
I'm such a
snowflake.
dazzling snowflake, and then
You
you can't
are.
you can't say that my personality is one that like 1/16th of the global population shares. Well,
You cannot put me in a box.
you can't put me in a box. So it's actually really a linguistic contention because we use personality to say like, oh, she has a great personality, or like you need to like develop more of your personality, whatever. And we're not pointing towards frameworks. We're just pointing towards your like expression of yourself.
Right.
So Jung called them psychological types, and I don't feel so attached to like what my I don't know my psychological type is. Sure, it's
Psychological type.
say that there are 16 of those, and I'm fine with that. You can say that I have a psychological type, but my personality, well, my personality is mine, and it's not something that everybody shares. So I like that framing.
I
Um,
love that actually from you have a linguistics background, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm fascinated by that because it is so true how different things just show up by just the wording that you use and the phrasing, and I do think that people would be less put into a box if it was a psychological framework
That's
rather
right.
than a personality test or a
Yeah.
personality schema.
I'll let the psychologists I let the psychologists tell me about psychological types, but you're
Right.
not telling me about personality. I've got personality, okay? That's kinda like, I feel that along with everybody else. Um, I was gonna mention his book because his, thing on introversion and extroversion. So, in his book, he talks about, like, pure types, not Myers-Briggs types, but, like, if you were just an introverted intuitive, and it's a pretty dour picture because he's talking about people who are like so out of balance. They are so messed up because they are a perfect type, and they got hella problems. They've got like some things that they can do in the world, but mostly they're really limited because they don't have any of this balance.
Right, right.
I don't know. I don't To be honest, I don't know how he like yeah, I would love to do some more research to find out how he went through the process of formulating this theory because it's like it's a lot at once. It's just so much. But so on the thing of introversion and extroversion, yeah, we're all both. He describes a pure introvert and a pure extrovert, and he gives them clinical diagnoses. I only remember the one for extrovert right now. It's hysteria.
Yes.
S Somebody who is purely extroverted is hysterical. They don't have a sense of self. They are in every moment, this is vibe ethics coming in every moment they are tuned in to external data, and they don't unify it with internal data
Mhm.
to navigate and stay stable or whatever. The I forget which name he applies to the pure introvert, but they just don't admit any external data. Um, yeah, I wonder. I don't wanna, like, throw out names and get it wrong right now.
Uh, I'm
Did you find it?
Googling it. A lunatic asylum.
What? Oh, I don't know if that doesn't sound
Lunatic
clinical enough.
asylum. I said, yeah, lunatic asylum. That's not a great name. Sounds
I hmm,
sounds
and introversion in terms of clinical diagnoses.
it would be psychologically unhealthy. Is Carl Jung someone that you would have at your dinner table if you could have 3 people dead or
He
alive?
he absolutely would be.
Same, same.
Absolutely would be.
Daddy
D
Young.
Daddy Young. The thing is that, like, you better dress to impress, not literally, like, dress up, but you better, like, be ready to impress because um really interesting, right? He's the one who created all the spirituality integration frameworks that we're using to become like better, more social beings and like be in touch with our shadow and not like project that on others and be able to interact in all these healthy ways, right? He made up a lot of that stuff or the stuff that developed into that. But he admits in his memoirs that he was like almost socially utilitarian, that he didn't maintain
Oh,
many strong connections, and, like, the strongest connections in his life were the people who were helping him in this process of discovery, which he was 100% committed to, and if somebody wasn't, like, useful data or wasn't helping him in that project, and then they just fell out of his life, he just didn't have any draw towards them. He admits it, which is good. He knows his shadow.
what was his type? Do we know?
I've heard people say INFJ.
J. Okay. That
INFJ,
that
but
checks out. That checks out.
I've heard Marie-Louise von Franz, who is one of his students, she says that he's a thinking type, which is not INFJ. So,
INTJ, I could see either.
yeah. Wait, I've got the extroversion introversion thing. Extroversion hysterical, introversion schizophrenic. Like all
That
of
seems a
the
bit extreme.
it's a bit extreme, but actually so what it's saying is that like for the it is extreme like no almost nobody is like a pure introvert, but it's saying that the data that's generated internally has all of the relevance, all of the
Mhm.
salience, which is how you get voices and hallucinations and things that like seem primarily real more than
Right.
extroverted data that comes from
Mhm.
outside. So we're all just little hysterical schizophrenics.
You can't put me into a box.
You can put me into a
You can't put me
box.
in a box, you can't label me.
uh,
But on this topic of using Myers-Briggs really as a tool to balance your personality, I think that is actually one of the best use cases for personality typologies. Uh, Other
mm,
than just using it as a sense of a greater tool for self-reflection and introspectiveness to better understand the way that you think about, process things, make decisions, maybe how you behaviorally might act, maybe things that you might enjoy for work or for real life. And really, I think that the use case of Myers-Briggs that people don't typically think about is that if you are very unbalanced or unintegrated of a certain part, like say you are just so incredibly intuitive, you're like 90% intuitive, like 10% sensing, you probably could add some like realistic groundedness into your life, into your abstract thoughts and all the abstractness of your conversations and what you're doing because you're kind of like having your head up in the clouds. And that groundedness and a bit of the sensor real life is good for you, actually.
mm.
And maybe that's something to lean into in your life. And same thing with if you did feel like you were like 95% extroverted, like just so extroverted that you were being a what, lunatic? If you were being
Extroverted, hysterical.
a hysterical if you were being hysterical because you just always needed to have people around and you always needed to be doing something and you always needed others around you and to be just such a busy bee with everything going on in your life socially that maybe there's something internally to look at because that isn't super balanced and super
There's certainly
integrated.
something internally to look at because they
Maybe
haven't
there's
looked.
something internally that, maybe sometimes people use things externally
Mm,
outside of themselves to really feel whole and complete and loved inside. And sometimes people get that from outward expression and from being that extroverted and always doing things and filling up their social life, filling up their cup so much. Maybe that's a distraction for something else. And,
mhm,
not to say that it's bad to be super extroverted, but this can just be like a indicator of what is your typology like how much in one direction are you? And if you want to be more logical in your thoughts, or maybe you want to integrate your intuition and your emotions more into your decision making because you are so far on the thinking side of the scale
mm,
of Myers-Briggs. So it can really be used as a tool for just integrating these different aspects of your personality or the way that you make decisions and frameworks
mm.
into being a more integrated, whole, and centered, balanced person.
Defo, 100%. Well, let me ask you, let's see if this plays out. What have been some of the best activities and frameworks and da 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 outside of Myers Briggs itself and outside of the personality stuff? What have been the best activities and frameworks for personal development or for spiritual development for you? What are some things that you've connected to and you've seen yourself growing and transforming through it?
So honestly, not really a spiritual practice by most people's regards, but I would say dance. I'm a huge dancer. I love music festivals, and that was a really big part of my life in my
Yeah.
20s. And I really feel like going to music festivals changed my life and turned me
Hmm.
into the more authentic version of myself. Because it was like, it helped me to get out of my shell and helped me to not be shy and helped me to have a lot of confidence with my body and have a much more wider social network as well as meeting a lot of people from different facets of life. Whereas I was like such a nerd growing up, I only hung out with the people in my AP or IB classes.
Oh,
I
I was in both as
did
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was only friends with those kids. I'm from a small town
Same.
too, so there wasn't a lot of us, but I would only hang out with the IB or AP kids,
Hmm.
did not make friends outside of that. And really, I was living in San Francisco and just San Francisco's kind of a bubble. Like there's not a ton of different types of people here, honestly.
Hmm.
And so going to music festivals really allowed me to become a more extroverted and, more just, like, having these different facets of my personality come out, and really, I think that, like, through dance, it's been such a way to shape my own self-expression and really being able to, like, get out of my head, and, it is, like, a somatic practice, of course, but I still feel like whenever I'm, like, having a bad day or I'm, like, overly thinking about things or I'm just, like, stressed out or something, like, I feel like practicing dance, whether that is going to a nightclub or a music festival or just, like, practicing at the gym and shuffling or whatever it is I wanna do, that has been, like, such a way for me to, yeah, get out of my head and get into my body and get into my spirit in a way that I would really recommend to anyone. I
I
mean, everyone's different, of course.
agree. I
But dancing is
agree.
my favorite spiritual practice.
So, what cognitive functions do you have in that? What cognitive functions do you have to rely on and develop in order to get to the dance practice, the music festival practice?
So I would say that I actually have a very low degree of sensing. I'm very highly intuitive, and so I'm kind of unbalanced between like the sensing and the intuitive.
Mhm,
And so I do feel like these like bodily practices that like get me out of my head and into my body like force me into the present moment. And I do feel like I'm way more present and not thinking about all the different things in my life when I'm actually like in tune with my body and in tune with my senses.
mhm,
And going to festivals is such a sensory experience. Like there's lights and there's people and it's way too loud and there's I usually wear like fur or something that's like very soft. And so I think it really like helps me to develop that more sensor side of me
mhm,
as well as I definitely was like a really strong J growing up, like very much a hard J. And going to festivals has allowed me to be way more spontaneous and lean much further into that perceiving P side of me that is more going with the flow and just like with the energy of what's going on around rather than like needing to plan everything and like having such a framework and an idea of where everything is going all the time.
mhm, and that's so like, all of that sounds very extroverted sensing. Extroverted
Yeah.
sensing is about this moment, right now,
Yeah.
the sensory data coming in, what is rather than what I think about it or what I'm
Mhm.
projecting, like, in the future and such. And then so, yeah, probably these festival environments where it's like, there's nothing to figure out, you just go with it. That's good integration work. That's good integration work. I'm about to take my favorite INFJ to a festival,
Oh, yeah?
but it's a philosophical festival, so we'll see if we get
Okay.
that same kind of a
What's a philosophical festival? I've never
I
heard of
don't
such a
know.
thing.
I don't know.
Oh,
It's in England. You're welcome to come. It's in May, at uh,
oh.
like out in the countryside, a place called Hay on Wye, and a bunch of cool speakers are going to be there. Debates. Tim is going to be there as well. I think Martin is going to be there.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so we're going to go to a festival, and I don't know. It might be intuition heavy, but maybe it'll be like this nice, beautiful balance between that and the music and the drugs and just like hanging out and flowing in it.
Mhm. And what would you say is your favorite spiritual practice that has brought you the most level of growth and development?
You took mine. You took
Oh,
mine.
did I? Did I? Oops.
I would say, like, first of all, somatics. These, like, general somatic practices, and the one that I engaged with deeply was called somatic experiencing. And I did somatic experiencing, kinda on its own in a therapeutic setting, but also as part of, MDMA therapy treatments. And
What
that
is
was
somatic experiencing?
somatic experiencing. I can try to explain it, but I'm an N type, and I don't get this body stuff. But the main concept as I've come to understand it is that we become disconnected from our body's signals, especially us who lead with intuitive functions.
Mm,
Those of us who lead with intuitive functions, like our sensory functions, are like the lowest of the low. There's data coming in that's available to us, but it gets trapped in our subconscious, and our subconscious has to deal with it all on its own. And we just generally we don't pay attention to the signals and what they require. Then our subconscious does like funny, tricky stuff and disrupts us and all of that. So, somatic experiencing is a process of getting reattuned to the sensory experiences of the body and your nervous system state. There are a few particular techniques within it, but a lot of what happens is identifying physical sensations in the body.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can be as simple as like pain in the shoulder, like an agitation in the hands, like an energy of like wanting to move. Sometimes it could be you start to notice like, oh fuck, there's this like there's this like vacuum in my chest that's been
Mhm.
there for ages, but I haven't like attended to that
Mhm.
that wants to move, that wants to release, and you can go through the process of releasing it. And then the other practice is you can go into these difficult sensations, really experiencing them, and that'll cause this activation of the nervous system. It'll cause you to get activated because it's just like data that you don't know how to
Right.
handle. You can go into that, go into the activation, and then you can come back um to parasympathetic rest, relaxation. And usually the vector to that is also through noticing comfortable sensations, supportive sensations, sensation of my butt in the seat and my feet on the ground,
Mhm.
the air on my skin, the lights and colors around me. So it's kind of like learning how to tune into the sensory data in
Mhm.
a way that's productive, that lets you like release the difficult stuff and also like to come back from those difficult emotions and regulate yourself. So that was really good, and that led me to contact improv dancing, and, oh my gosh, contact improv is insane, I love it so much. It's flowy, it can be acrobatic, it can be just so subtle. This act of, like, tuning into somebody, and you're tuning in both in this sensory realm, so the actual physical sensations of their body and of the space. And I guess the maybe the introverted sensing realm inside, but I don't totally know how that works. As well as the feeling realm. It's very feeling oriented. What I want, what I intuit that they want.
Mhm.
And yeah, so you're using those functions, getting rid of thinking, getting rid of intuition, and just like flowing through those, combining extroversion and introversion at the same time.
Wow.
Uh and it's been so good for me. And whenever I do good contact improv dances, it's like I feel myself like changed. I feel myself changed. Like when I've gone a while without doing something like this, and then I get into like a good contact improv dance one evening, the next day I'll notice the difference. More presence, sometimes more creativity. But yeah, just more security and safety and all of the things that I think I want, honestly.
Probably because it's really having you tune into all of your bodily sensations and everything is being really present moment and these, like, fine, minute details. Because I know that we're both very intuitive, and sometimes people who are very intuitive have a problem with these, like, more nuanced, detail-oriented
Mhm.
functions, and so really tuning into all of those, like, small little pieces of how exactly your body is moving can really actually heighten your awareness for the details and for these like small procedural areas of life. And so it probably helps you to balance your psychological framework more.
I think that's huge, absolutely. I think that's so huge. And so according to this Myers-Briggs, this relationship of 4 different functions that each of us has, you as an INFJ would have extroverted sensing as your shadow function. Like, that's the most disconnected that you want to grow that one up, right? To be
Mhm.
more balanced. And then I would have introverted sensing as an ENFP. I would have introverted sensing as the most shadow function. And I'll admit, I still don't really get what introverted sensing is. All
What
the st-
exactly is that? Can you explain to me like I'm five?
Can you explain to me like I'm five? Actually, I should actually go back to ChatGPT and do that. But the as far as I understand, it has to do with memory.
Mm.
It has to do with routine. At least routine is what would kind of come out of connection with introverted sensing.
The
You would
memory part is fascinating to me because I know you're an ENFP,
mhm.
and I love ENFPs, but you guys have the worst memory.
You we what?
The
Don't talk to me
worst
like my
memory.
ex.
The worst memory. I think that they're one of the types that I notice, like, doesn't remember a lot of the details of things, whereas I definitely don't always remember all the details, but if I'm
Big
really
picture. Big picture
very
girl.
big picture, very big picture. That is so funny. No, I definitely noticed that about ENFPs, that you don't tend to remember. Like, sometimes it's like, "Oh, like, I forgot what I told you," or, like, "I forgot that I told you this story," or, "I forgot how we met," or I tend to notice that a lot with ENFPs.
Yeah.
Checks
Yeah, yeah,
out that
yeah.
it has to do with memory.
That's
There's
probably
just so much
true.
going on up there. There's just so much going on up there. You have so many ideas. You're meeting so many people. You're so extroverted. You're doing all these things
Mhm.
that, those little details, they get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, they get lost in the sauce. So as far as I understand, introverted sensing has to do with you're getting like sensory data. The extroverted sensors and the introverted sensors, they get sensory data from wherever that comes from. Comes from lots of places, comes from outside and inside. But then the extroverted sensors just pay attention to that data. And the
Mm,
introverted sensors pay attention to like what that brings up. Like, oh,
mm,
that data is coming in. And it's just like that one time when I saw the light in that exact color, or that smell is just like the one. We all can do this to some degree, but I have this experience increasingly recently of so I record video diaries,
mhm,
and now sometimes I've been going back and like listening to my diaries from a year and a half ago. Um, and I f- I'm starting to get this felt sense of what it was like to be in that moment.
mm.
And it's weird. It causes like some tinglings in my body. There's like a moment of like tension where I'm like holding on to my current self, and then I'm like, oh, okay, right, that village in Nepal where I was taking mushrooms, and then I'm kind of like back there in my body
Yeah.
in a weird way. And I think that's like a low introverted sensing coming online. Whereas
Mhm,
for people like my dad who lead with that function, we have the opposite personality types.
mhm,
Um, it would just like he just kind of like lives in this continuous state of like, yeah, uh, maybe like fewer nervous system patterns that just like
mm.
that it keeps him pretty consistent. And I'm just like, no, I'm a new person now. I've done so much development since then. And then to like go back into those feelings is really interesting. Is really
Mhm,
interesting and insightful. I don't know how true they are, to be honest. Like
mhm.
probably the memory is a little shoddy. We know that
As
memories
we
can be that
know,
way, especially for
especially
ENFPs.
for ENFPs. Do you have a lot of friends that are ISTJs?
No.
The opposite? Okay, because I actually find that I love hanging out with ESTPs, which is the opposite of my cognitive stack, because I feel like I learn a lot. Because they just go
Hmm.
about the world so differently than I do that I don't feel like they're my opposite, I just feel like it's a good learning and growing
Hmm.
experience. Although I do think that sometimes they misunderstand me because we just see the world so differently, but I find it's a
Mm.
really good experience actually. Like, I one of my best friends is a ESTP, and it's really cool to have dialogue and discussion about the way that we view things because, we're both very intellectual, but just go about things a very different way. So it's like a good oppositional way to have a discussion with someone, and
Mm.
we actually get along really well, even though we have opposite cognitive functions, where I don't really think that we're
ESTP.
opposite. It's just like
ESTP. I think we talked about this before, and I can't identify any ESTPs in my life either to reference what that personality is really like.
you gotta start categorizing your friends more.
I just don't have any ESTP friends.
You gotta start making some.
I got to start making some. Yay! Come on, come, guys, get out here. Join Contact Improv. Come on, they might be
I'm
there.
not
I
sure if they're into contact improv.
I
That's
don't
fair,
know.
actually.
It's
That's a
very
very
ES.
it's very NF.
Oh, you think so? Hmm. I need to
I
do
feel
more
like
of a sample.
intuitive people are more into things like contact improv in my experience.
Hmm. We will. I'm gonna. I'm gonna start taking surveys.
I have never heard of contact improv until a very spiritual woo-woo friend of mine told me about it.
And it wasn't me?
No,
That wasn't like a
another
subtle like
a different ENFP actually.
Yeah, if you get the chance to give it a try, give it a try. It's always good to like
Mhm.
go to a workshop first so that
Okay.
you can it's not necessary, but you'll feel more comfortable, like, you know what the rules there aren't any rules, but you'll know what, like, the rules in the form are so that you know you can
Mhm.
just, like, jump into it and do the few things and then improvise from there. Because I think it could be intimidating to just, like, go to a jam and it's like, they're all kind of doing whatever, but there's some kind of form to it. I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah.
maybe I can find one here in San Francisco.
They're definitely there.
I've never seen any.
They're definitely there. Hmm. I I think that feels like a pretty natural, point to slow down. Is there anything that you wanted to tie up that we didn't get to finish?
I think for now I'm good. We got to talk a lot about Myers-Briggs type, which is exactly
Mm,
what I like talking about.
I like it too. I like it too. I like it too. What would we talk about next time? I feel like there's more in the digital nomad space.
Definitely more in the digital nomad space.
Mhm.
Um, definitely more about, like I'm interested in, like, comparing the energies of different cities and places and, like, the people that they attract. 'Cause I think that's, like, a big thing about
Mm,
what I learned as a nomad that, like, not only that people in a different city are different, it's, like, literally the energy makes you show up differently being there,
so
but also the people there are different because the city and the energy of the city or the place attracts a certain type of person, but then also the people that you're around shape who you are.
mhm. It's totally true. There's some vibe ethics in that too. Uh, that sounds like a tier list.
A tier list.
A tier list waiting to happen. You know the tier lists where you'd rank.
Oh, when you're, like, ranking the cities
Yeah,
or
yeah,
ranking
yeah.
different area yeah, that's
Yeah,
true,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
cool. All right.
Depends on what you want.
Cool. Well, it's been such a good chat and really fun to catch up and connect with a Myers-Briggs enthusiast.
Likewise, yeah,
'Cause,
thank you so much, Art. This was great.
this is great. I look forward to getting it out there.
Yeah, me too.